Welcome to the Absolute Dog Sex in a Squirrel podcast. I'm Lauren Langman. I'm one of the world's leading dog trainers, and it's my mission to help owners become their dog's top priority. In each episode, you'll discover how to gain trust and communicate with your dog like never before, creating unbreakable bonds that make you the most exciting part of their world.
If you caught part one of this conversation with Lauren and Mel, you already know they dove deep into what recovery really looks like for our dogs after a competition weekend. So for this second part, Lauren is once again joined by the brilliant Mel Doyle, small animal physio, rehab expert, and her personal go-to when it comes to keeping her dogs fit and thriving. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a professional handler juggling multiple dogs and endless events, this episode will help you rethink, reset, and rebuild your training schedule with purpose. Let's go ahead and dive into part two with Mel.
And using those, all the different size but solid base platforms to create what we want to create, whether we're sort of loading the back end more, whether we're loading the front end more, whether we're creating like a balanced even surface, whether we've got individual paws that are targeted. Again, I don't think, I mean, you might correct me, but I don't think Jamie uses the paws anymore.
Very rarely. Yeah.
And again, but you've got those individual targets and look at what I mean, you have to say, Skittles' body shape, her physique is amazing.
100% different. Yeah, 100% changed as well. So has changed completely. So she's lean but muscly lean. So but her body changes, but her body, and you're right, it has been since August last year, where you put hands on you like, we need more muscle here, we need to recruit better muscle here, because if not, this won't last.
Yeah. And without the muscle, she would have, because of the brain that she had, without having the body to back up the brain, she would have very easily hurt herself because the body wasn't there to support what her brain wanted to do.
Yeah. So it makes complete sense. So I'm looking at this week, Mel.
Yep.
And I'm now thinking hard. If you were going to fit in a treadmill session with those dogs and they're competing again, now let's say Skittle obviously isn't, she's competing on Sunday, but the other dogs are competing on a Saturday, where are you going to fit a treadmill session in? Where's the best day to do that?
So then you have to relook at what you want to do on the Wednesday, really, because Wednesday again is probably the last day to do it. If you could do it on the Tuesday, but then you affect what you do Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
So, it might be, and again, sprint work doesn't necessarily have to be included within every week, so I know we're talking about a week here, but in a way you could talk about a month and go, right, well, this week we're going to do some sprint work and we're not going to do that. This week we're going to do this, but we're not going to do that. So although we've got this sort of like collection of things we want to include, we don't necessarily include them every week. Like we were talking about, I say, right, if I'm competing, if I'm training, I haven't got time to put a treadmill session in. So the next week when I'm not competing, I will do. And everything would be an ideal world, would be lovely to do everything every week, but we can't fit it all in.
And I'm like, it's like life, isn't it? There's so many things you want to do. There's part of me that next week is a school holiday. Part of me wants to go abroad. Part of me wants to enjoy the horses here. Part of me wants to train the dogs all week. Part of me wants to go exploring the local area. Part of me wants to go in a camper van for a week. I want to do it all, right? And it's how you work out what you can fit in and what you can't fit in, and then life as well, and doing life too. So potentially the treadmill session on like the Wednesday.
Yeah.
Potentially, or the Tuesday's better, you're saying?
Yeah, or the third. Well, if you do it on the Tuesday, you then affect what you can do on the Wednesday. So you then would limit how much, because you wouldn't be able to do the agility training that you wanted to do on the Wednesday. So you couldn't do like the fast dog walk, the fast, really higher intensity exercises if you did a treadmill session on the Tuesday.
So really the treadmill could be the end of your Wednesday session, so you could do
and that definitely sort of include those things at the end of the day, so your professional inputs if you can. So if you can timetable, you see them at 4:00, then see them at 4:00, then that gives you all the rest of the day to do all the other things, but target them in the right way. So be something like, maybe you want to do a little bit of training, or you would do treadmill in the morning on the Thursday before a professional on the Thursday afternoon for those dogs that are only doing work on the Sunday. But those that are doing Saturday, you might treadmill them on the Wednesday. So each dog might have a different plan for the week. It might not be every dog does exactly the same thing for each day of the week.
So then Thursday, potentially the treadmill early if they're competing Sunday only. If not, they could do land-based on the Thursday still, lighter land-based because they did the treadmill on the Wednesday.
Yeah, if for that dog, yes. If the dog's done the treadmill on the Wednesday, then you have a lighter land-based in the morning. You could have a lead walk and then your professional in the afternoon. Excuse me. It's just really making sure that if you have something high intensity like a pool session, a treadmill session, you've got a light day the next day. or later that, you put it later on in the day so that it allows you the morning and the sort of, earlier part. So say on the dogs that were having a treadmill session, a professional, they could have like a treadmill session at lunchtime on Thursday, professional Thursday afternoon, and then you've got all of Thursday morning that you could do some more skills training. So not as high intensity as Wednesday. So again, thinking of this curve shape, Wednesday being the peak, so you'll be coming off the curve. It might be you just want to maybe work on a couple of weave entries, but you don't want to do 12 weaves. You just want to work on the entry. So you might just reward the entry, or you might put out 3 poles. I don't know, whatever methods people use, but you've got sort of flexibility there to work on some things. But I wouldn't be doing like big, long, hard running sequences on the Thursday morning.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And then the Friday really is a travel day. So we're talking again lead work, or lead walking in the morning, or land base in the morning. No more agility work because we're traveling that day, and that's a rest day effectively for them before
Yeah.
competition, you say?
Again, it's sort of you're tapering down. So you taper up at the beginning of the week to a peak, and then you taper down towards the weekend. And if you aren't competing the following weekend, then you could sort of spread your time out to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then taper down Saturday, Sunday, Monday, build back up again for the following week. Do you see what I mean? So, and again, if you've got something like, so say we've got the next 4 weekends of champ, but then the 5th weekend there's no champ, that would be, I go, right, this is a time we're going to have a little bit of downtime. We're going to sort of come off of that high intensity and just let it taper off. And then the weekend after, you've got another championship show for, I'm trying to work my head. Yes, you would. It'd be Axstane. No, you wouldn't. So you've got 5 weekends, you're Axstane as well, haven't you? So, and then the weekend after is possibly, I don't know, would that be so it's building, thinking, right, I've got championship. Do I want to do all of those? Or for example, like you've just run Sheba, you've won a champ ticket. Yes, you want to look towards winning 3, but maybe she has a little bit of downtime as a result of the fact she's just done that.
Part of my planning in my own dogs, if say Venture won a championship, I actually would then probably knock off championship for 6 weeks. And the reason I would do that is because it gives me time to focus on the other classes, but also she doesn't really need another one. And I think although you like to win the 3, actually you just take a little bit of work off because you've already hit and achieved one of the goals. So actually, it's a nice way to look at it. And I definitely have that mindset. The other thing you said, which I thought was really interesting, is we went to some beautiful beaches when we were in Scotland. You saw some beautiful beaches. We saw some beautiful beaches. But I had to say to my really good friend Amy, I had to say, Amy, I can't go with you because Venture just will not work the day after racing around on a beach all night. She just will be exhausted and she just can't handle that. Wild, I know it isn't right for her. The only dog I could take is Nell, our little sheepdog. She would come quite happily and run around the beach all day and all night. But actually, that's something to be mindful of again, because it's a really nice thing to do, isn't it, when you're at a competition? But is it the right thing to do? And what's your take on it? Because we're not saying it's wrong or it's right for anybody else. What you do is what we're modeling here or talking about here. So it's not right, it's not wrong. It's just what you do, and that's how you see it. What would you do in terms of like traveling to a show, let outs, off leads, on leads, those types of questions?
Yeah. So like taking this weekend, for example, I did visit the beach, but I didn't visit the beach till Sunday evening. So the whole competition weekend was finished. There was no more. I was traveling all day yesterday, so they were having a rest day. So for me, the beach day, I was only there for half an hour. I wasn't there for hours. It was a little bit of downtime. It was a bit of decompression for all of us. But at the same time, there was going to be no competition afterwards. I wouldn't have gone on, for me, I wouldn't have gone on Friday or Saturday because I was competing Saturday, Sunday, and I want my dogs to be at the freshest they can be. I still want them to be dogs. I still want them to enjoy life, but at the same time, I want to make sure that they don't hurt themselves. And if they are fatigued because they've been racing around the beach, they are more likely to hurt themselves when they're doing agility. They're probably more likely to be more tired and not be able to give me their best if they've been running around a beach a lot. And beaches, it depends which part of the beach you're on as well. The sand can be really deep and really hard to move through, and right along the waterline it can be quite compact and quite nice. It depends whether you've got a dog that's wanting to go in and out of the water or whether they're just happy to go along the beach. But for me, it was a Sunday trip. It wasn't a Friday or a Saturday trip.
Yeah, no, brilliant. I think really interesting. And then another question for you, sort of based on that, and it kind of links, but it kind of doesn't. Often, me and you will both have our dogs on lead for a period and then off lead, so they don't go straight off lead. But you've really converted me to harnesses, but not just any harness, a well-fitted harness, and the type of harness and the double clips and everything else. I know again another thing. She's a lovely friend, but I nag, and it's harnesses now because I see the damage on the neck. What's your take on that? And I now, once I've seen it, I have a real problem now that I can't unsee it, and then I have this annoying thing that I have to say it, because I can't just not say it because this is Lauren. And so I have to say it. I have to verbalize how I feel, which is a very, I don't know, maybe it's my age or stage or I don't know, or whatever. There's a reason I have to say it. And so I have to say that. Oh my God, where's a harness? Grab a harness on. She's a harness on, like because I can see the type thing. It's the same as in a restrain if you're restraining dogs and you can see the like cut off the throat
Yeah.
movement. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts? What are your thoughts in treating dogs, in seeing dogs as a physio, as a professional in the field? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, there are sort of a lot of thoughts about it, and a lot of people say, well, a harness can affect movement. I think anything that we put on our dog can affect movement, but what we want to do is minimise the effect that that has on the dog's movement. And I think a harness that doesn't impact the front leg being free to move is really important. Well fitting as well. Sometimes they can be quite baggy or they can be too far back. Is also really important. It needs to be, I want to say snug, but I don't mean tight. I mean snug. It needs to be to the body. It doesn't want to be slipping around from side to side. Um, and I mean, the harness that we talked about, I just think they're quite good because you can actually pick and choose each individual bit to fit the individual dog, or have ones made. I mean, both of my two actually have ones that are specifically made for them. They are bespoke, so they only fit them. They don't fit anybody else. But I just think harnesses are really important because then you reduce the um, sort of pressure around the neck on all the other structures around that area as well. But even having a harness on doesn't mean that the dog can then pull. So it's really important that they can move in balance as well, you know. And I do my best to make sure that even though I've got harness on, that actually when I'm walking backwards and forwards, I want her focusing on me and not going and pulling into the harness. And the harness won't stop a dog from pulling. That's not.
That's a really interesting point because one of my observations with Skittle is as much as I can teach great lead walking, she likes to pull in a harness. So she really does. So one of the things I've had to do is really work on balance walking. I wouldn't say it's done. I think it's, and I don't mean balance in the weird trainer way, the trainers that say they balance things. It's not, that's not what I mean. I mean walking where she's not pulling and effectively you can see a walk and a trot gait. Often you can't see a walk and a trot gait from her. She still only has like a canter or a strong pull, or a hop on the spot, kangaroo style. And so I've actually used, rightly or wrongly, I've used the front clip and I've also used the head collar, but she will still try and toe into it if she can. So it's definitely something we need continued work on. And it's something I actually think she needs schooling on. I think she's an animal that needs schooling on how to walk continually. And some of you might be shocked because you're listening, you're like, it's a 2-year-old dog. I've got Nell, who's a 1-year-old dog, who's never been taught to walk on a lead, who walks perfectly on a collar, and I have no problem with her on a collar. She doesn't yank, she doesn't put any
Mm.
she doesn't have a collar on in her world. She stays with you. Skittle, who have had a lot longer, and yanks and pulls, and some dogs have it in them to toe, and they would like to toe. So give us some of your thoughts on that, Mel. Anything you do to help or anything you'd observe. And I definitely know I'm working on this, and it's something I've really observed. Just because she's on a harness doesn't mean she's like not still running on 2 legs.
Yeah,
And her back
yeah.
leg just not part of the world, and her front legs like she's all front ended. So I do have to constantly like check myself not to just keep walking and be towed by her because she's strong and toes.
Yeah, I think it is being mindful, like you say there. You know, it's being mindful to the whole sort of process. And the other thing we've talked about, and we've done a lot with Brave. You know, bring Brave into the equation of using a lead to help balance her movement, to help walk her as best we can get her to walk without her wanting to just go and chicken watch and go up the driveway as quick as she can, but to move her. And what you said about balance is moving her in balance and moving any of them in balance so that they are equally loading each leg as they should in whatever gait they happen to be in, without actually overloading other structures like that thoracic sling of muscle, you know, because anytime they're pulling all the muscular structures around the front legs and chest, they are overworking, and they're not designed, although they can, they're not designed to pull. They and they can very easily become too tight and overloaded, which is a lot of the time what we have with Brave is she uses that end a lot to help her move herself around because of her other little difficulties. But other dogs like Skittles just want to get there as quick as possible, and that's the quickest way. So, you know, it's still a balance. I've got a little Chihuahua who's been coming to me because it's had luxating patella, and that just wants to pull down the road as well. So it's not sort of breed specific or sport specific. I think it's any dog, you know. And I think sort of teaching our dogs to walk on a lead without those things isn't going to be controlled by a gadget. It's what we put into it as well. And but things like head collars and harnesses and how we use the lead can help us get to the places we want to with them and manage them. Because although like you have a head collar on Skittles, you don't walk along with her pulling into it so hard that her neck's at 90 degrees so that she's still wanting to go fast forward. It's just an aid to help manage her to walk, get her to walk better than what she was doing. So that sort of makes sense.
Your stroking of the lead, for example, the stroking of the lead works
Mm.
very, very well with her. At the same time, you're changing tactics all the time because if you don't, she's picked up that one and she's moved on and passed it. She's now climbing the lead, or I've not had many dogs that have challenged me as much as I love her. She's a big challenge, really. Like there's a lot of dog in a small package. Whereas I've had much bigger dogs and much heavier dogs that are much easier to live with and own, or be owned by because they don't necessarily have the same mental space that she does. Her headspace is I'm a winner and I'm going to dunk anyone in my way. If she you just don't put her in with other dogs, I've learned, because she would dunk anyone if she can. She'll put them under. Like she's just in a hurry to get there. Like she doesn't care who's in her way. And I mean, we all know people like that. that they're going to get there anyway. Like whatever comes in their way, they're still like Sonic the Hedgehog and leaping and catching the hoops on the way. She's caught all the hoops and she's leaping and she's got them all and she doesn't care who's like put a head collar on her, a harness on her. And so yeah, I really like what you say about actually the walking on lead is a skill in itself. And of course we can have tools, double leads, head collars, harnesses, special harnesses, fitted harnesses, and all the shiny kit. Some people even glitter them. But the biggest thing is actually we still need to rehearse that skill, and we need to rehearse that skill correctly.
Yeah.
Big, really big. Now, a couple of other things you talked on, Mel, and I don't want to go into nutrition too much here because obviously this is just what you do or what I do. We're not nutritionists, we're not qualified as nutritionists. It's not what we're preaching on. But just give us a couple of the examples of things you might consider yourself. So things that you do that we can listen to.
So just for example, really, so I want to, whether it be a day where I've done like a high level of training, so like let's say the Wednesday or a Thursday if I'm not competing on a Saturday, that evening I will give some sort of high protein chew or Kong or something, but something really high protein to help her body recover from what she's been doing that day. And that I do without fail. And she gets that on a show as well. So like on a Saturday night, she will get that, and a Sunday night, she will get that as well. And that I think is really important because we just whatever fuel we use, it's got to fuel the body to repair itself. Not only fuel it for what we want it to do, but also for repair is massive. And
Yeah.
protein is going to be the biggest source.
I completely agree. Mine would get their filled Kongs, they get their filled bones, they get them filled with great quality protein, and obviously the supplement things like Shroom and things like Prime and things like Flexi that I know have really great ingredients there to support and almost for me charge that. But I agree completely. I always want to make sure they've got the right things fresh when they're drinking afterwards, and like you said, the right chews or the right high energy snack effectively as well. So even within my treats and what I'm giving them in between working, I make sure that I wouldn't feed, for example, there's certain brands, I wouldn't feed supermarket brands. So I'm not looking to give them things like that. I don't want to be giving them filler. I want to be giving them something
That's what I mean. Yeah, so good, high quality protein, whatever source that happens to be. It could be a collagen chew. It could be, some meat-based product in the evening. It could be, like you say, meat-based product through the day. But again, we need to be careful balancing that out because we don't want too much food in the stomach for
beta.
running.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do have to be mindful of all of that. We can't just go, oh, look, have loads of treats because I need to fill you up with high quality protein for you to repair if you're going to go and sprint around an agility circuit, because that is something that wouldn't be very good at all.
I know this is a controversial question, but do you feed your dogs a lot in the morning of a competition, or how do you feed your dogs, or is everything completely normal and the same?
They well, if they're competing, they'll get a very small amount in the morning, just something just to start the day off. And then my spaniel does get I give her sort of it's a full meat pate, and that's what she gets as sort of her rewards and going to and from the ring. They're very small bits, and I use that in my warm up as well and my cool down. But I give a very small amount in the morning, and I know that other people have different thoughts, and that's whatever. But I give something small because I don't want too much in her stomach because I know she's going to get some more through the day.
Exactly the same. So we use a high protein pate. It's on the AOK9 site and it's on the Absolute Dog site. You can get hold of them. Really nice high protein pates. I use different flavors, as in different protein sources: deer, ostrich, lamb, goat, turkey, venison, that type of protein. And mine get that throughout the day. But again, I realized quite quickly with a greedy dog like Sheeba the other day, she's greedy. Like she'll eat everything I give. She's greedy. She's hungry. Like not hungry, but just greedy. She'll eat whatever's in
Yeah.
front of her. But similar to you, I'll do something little in the morning. It might be a raw egg, or it might be some of their normal food, or some of their dinner, or but a small amount. And I do like the idea of lining their tummy, but I don't like the idea of filling them when I know I'm going to be using food throughout the day of a competition day as well. So I'm always going to use enough food throughout the day. And I know that's again controversial one, but I think it's worth just saying what we do. We're not recommending that. We're just saying that's
Yeah.
what we do, and that's how we do it.
And I think what I'm saying as well is for me, it's based in science. So what I'm doing, whatever you choose to use, my reasoning for doing it is science based, and that's my reasoning for doing it. So it's not that I'm just going, oh, I don't know, let's just do this. This is my reason for doing it. It's the same with my physio work. It's like anything we've talked about. Like, right, I want you to try and do this. The reason for it is X, Y, and Z. Because for me, what's the point in doing something if we don't know why we're doing it? We need to know why we're doing it. We need to know the end result that we're trying to get to. Otherwise, what's the purpose of doing it? So, and I've got such a science background that everything for me has got to have a reason why I'm doing it. I don't just like go, oh, I just fancy doing that today. Let's find out why and what we're doing. And so for me, it's for anybody who says anything. I quite often, so many times, get questions at shows. I did this weekend. And someone said, "Oh, Mel's a physio," and then, "Oh, can I ask you a question?" And I'm like, I say I'm not commenting on what anybody else does, but if you've got any, ask why, because anybody would be happy to share their clinical reasoning with why if they're science based, and that's why I do the things I do because there's sort of a reason behind it.
Yeah.
I'm not one for following fads as well. So if just because I see somebody else doing it, it doesn't mean so I'm going to follow and do it. I might go, oh, I wonder why they're doing that, and reason out why. And if I can't see a reason why, then I wouldn't just do it because I saw somebody who's at the top of their game doing it. I would be wanting to know why. And I think why is a really good question to ask, whatever we're in, really.
And anyone who doesn't like your why, I almost say I think it's often just a self-confidence or they don't actually have the backing. And I don't say that in a critical way. I always encourage questions. I think questions are a good thing.
Yeah.
One more question: swimming versus treadmill, because I know that I've often got the option of both. I know that some people will have the access to both. I know that since I've known you, I've used the treadmill way more than I probably used to. We still have times when I mean the swimming just feels so fun. But actually, you've got some fairly again good reasoning behind what you've suggested, and I definitely wholeheartedly understand and go with that. Really, tell us a little bit about that, Mel.
I mean, they both have their place. I mean, it's like anything. It's it doesn't matter really what it is you're using. It's why you're using it and what you're trying to achieve by it. And I know sort of our discussions have evolved around the high energy dogs that just want to go from A to B as quick as possible and not really considering their movement. So in the pool, you have a lot less ability to control that. So there's no end of range in the pool. So the dog's legs can go in whatever direction they want them to go if they're not being managed by somebody, as a therapist, for example. So they're just doing it as activity. Now that's okay if they're quite efficient and considered in their movement in the pool. So, but if you've got a dog that's high energy and just wants to go from A to B as quick as possible, they're not going to consider how they're moving in the pool. And if they've got any little underlying issues, those can easily be enhanced by a quick movement because they've turned or they want to chase something, or oh, there's somebody gone down there for X, Y, and Z. If they're with other dogs in the pools. I know sometimes you have multiple in there. So I don't think neither's bad, but I think the one advantage the treadmill has is we are got a lot more control over what happens in it. We can control the speed, we can control the water depth, we can control the temperature. We can control so many more things about how the dogs are moving. So that's the only reason why. But the pool is fine, but something that's high energy, and we just need to be more careful, I think, in the pool than the treadmill, because there's a lot more room for error, I would like to say, that we can always control, whereas we can control a lot more things in the treadmill.
And then my last one. How much downtime, Mel, would you give a dog like finishing a season? So say they finish not a hormonal season. So say the dog's finished competing in say October. Would you give like a month, 2 months, a week, 3 weeks? Like how much like agility downtime do you give a dog if you've got like the best choice in the world, the best range, no big performance coming up, or what would be your sort of, because I think there's a need for us to sometimes do agility. Like I really want to do it, but I also go, I really need to book a holiday, so I'll just give my dogs a good break because if not, I think we can easily keep training. So is there like a period of you go, actually rest wise, this dog needs 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months? Like what's right?
I mean, for me, I give a whole month off, and I try and time it depending on what else I've got going on. So, for example, Phoenix had all of January off because I wanted to give her January off, and then I'm looking at 12 weeks build up to sort of her being at her best. You need to sort of thinking about a program of about 12 weeks, and then they'll be at their peak for sort of 2 to 3 weeks. So I wanted her to try and be at her peak for the novice qualifiers. Um, that was what I aimed for. Now, obviously, unfortunately, it didn't quite work for me. I had 2 poles down. Damn those poles, which don't normally happen. She had no, I can't. I think I count on one hand how many poles this dog has down in a year. She's only been competing a year.
Probably not used to undulating sand in different spaces, and it was particularly hard surface to work on, right?
Yeah, and I looking at the video and analysing it. The two that she had down, I think, were where the previous dogs, which were large dogs, they'd run around and they dug up the surface. It was slightly deeper. It was undulating, and she's not used to that.
I think we had the same pole. I think one of the poles was the same
Yeah,
pole, similar area at least. They're not used to it. They're not used to the ground. They're not used to working on sand like that. They're not used to working on undulating sand. They're not used to working on deep sand like that.
yeah, um, and now I will just tone things down now, because for her the next sort of big thing will be the end of June. So I won't stop doing anything, because I don't want to give her like a month off like I gave her in January, because I don't want to lose everything that I built up until that point. But I will sort of take it down a notch now for her, so that in June and July we start to peak up again.
You'll always give her a tick over, so she gets a
Yes.
tick over. And if you had a choice, so say you had longer than a month that you could give a dog off, do you think longer, or do you think a month really is enough, and then get them
I
going?
think a month is plenty. I think a month is plenty. But I wouldn't also like stop doing all the fitness exercises and things we're doing. Those would still be in place. It would just be the agility training that would, and like the sprint training and the harder sort of, high intensity things would just drop off. But everything else would stay in place, because I don't want her to become at a point where I've literally got to start, like we did in August, basically with Skittles. I don't want to go to that point. I don't want to get to the point where I've got to spend, quite a period of time building muscle back up again, and then starting skills training, and then starting everything else. But I will just tailor it down a little bit. And I think a month is just enough time for everything to just decompress, but continue those things, and then I'll build back up again.
Yeah, great. Sounds absolutely perfect. So give them a month, and equally where there's time within a competition season to tick them over rather than push them hard. So if you've got a few weeks where the qualifiers maybe aren't coming so thick and fast, then let them tone down a little and go from there. Mel, it's been epic. It's dark with you now. So it's like dark with you and it's gone.
I know. I just realised I haven't got a light on, and I'm like trying to keep the glow of my laptop on my face. You can still see me.
You're in pitch black mode. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't think it's the end. I think it's the beginning. I think there's more to talk on. But brilliant fun. Loads of fantastic information for people. I really hope it helps dogs and
me too.
All over. And I appreciate all of your expertise and all of your time. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.